ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, January 21st edition of the program. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you've got a question, comment, concern over the next hour, drop it there. We've got a fun show ahead. We're going to reconnect with our Bucs on the Pond podcast crew, Scott Lorbatcher and Jonathan Wagner, to preview the upcoming ECU baseball season. Of course, we had Media Day earlier this week, so a lot to recap from there, from those guys. We'll get into that and a whole lot more with them. So looking forward to that, segments 2, 3, and 4 in our show. Also, women's basketball gets a huge win last night in San Antonio over the UTSA Roadrunner, 65-58. We're going to lead the show with some women's hoops discussion because we have the head coach, Kim McNeill, standing by. Coach McNeill, first off, congrats on the win. And
thank you.
I imagine that flight back from San Antonio the late night had to be a little sweeter coming home after a win like that.
It's always good traveling back on the plane after a win, especially when you got a long ride like that coming back from UT San Antonio. No
doubt. I'm sure it was a memorable one for you and the women. I also want to congratulate you, Coach, on win number 100 at ECU, and we'll get more into the game last night. But 100 wins at East Carolina, it's got to be pretty special to you.
It definitely is. Anytime you can, reach a milestone like that, I would say it took me a little bit longer than what I had anticipated. But, winning is hard, and especially everything that, I've kind of gone through here, at ECU, dealing with COVID, obviously the portal and, all the money stuff. So, the world of college athletics is very different and very difficult now. So any win's a good win, and when you can get to 100, you definitely want to celebrate it.
No doubt. Coach Kim McNeill with us, head women's basketball coach at East Carolina. The Pirates right now having a heck of a season overall. 14-6. They're 6-1 in the league, best league start in 40 years. And Coach, winning on the road, we all know it. Knowing this business, you know it well. It's extremely difficult. You guys go to UTSA, which had your number last year, and they were the regular season conference champions. So let's go through last night's win. Just what did that one mean to you and the team? Because it was very, very, very hard earned on the court.
It really was. We had to get it done on the defensive end of the floor. Everybody has been talking about, how well we've been doing offensively, which we have. And I'm super proud of that. But, on the road, it's just a different environment. And that's why, I really hang our hat on defense, because defense travels, rebounding travels. And some nights on the road, you just don't shoot the ball as well as you do at home. And, against Temple, we hit 9 threes. I think against Tulsa we hit 11. So, in the last 2 home games we're averaging about, 8 or 9 made threes. And then we get to UT San Antonio yesterday and we can't hit the backside of the barn. So I told him, I said, this game is going to have to get done on the defensive end of the floor. And that's why we put so much emphasis on defense, because it travels and, it can create offense for you. But last night our defense won the game for us. We weren't our normal selves offensively.
No doubt. I want to get into that with you, Coach, just kind of a different type of team this year. But I'm curious, too, the UTSA thing. Obviously, teams change so much year to year. Your team looks a lot different. Their team looks a lot different. I don't know, this last year, did you even, bring that up, that they got after you guys pretty good in those 2 games? Is it more of a, I don't know, a personal thing? Going into a game like that, we often say, revenge game in the media, but I don't know, is that even a factor going into a contest like last night?
No, we didn't really talk about it. We they got us pretty good both games last year. And down there, I think we scored maybe 17 points in the first half, something crazy. But there's so many new faces on this team, that I haven't really gone back to the past, because there's only a few kids that really understand, was really a part of it. And we look so different, and we are so different. We showed a few clips, from last year of some things they did against us in our matchup. But it was really focusing on the now and not really going back to the past.
Definitely fair for sure. Kim McNeill with us, ECU women's basketball coach, and you talked about it, so many new faces. You guys have really come together over these last 11, 13, 14 games, if you look at it. So what has clicked, and what has this process been like for you? I know talking to you in the preseason, you were excited about this group of girls, and you were excited to coach them. What has clicked over that time to allow you guys to play so well?
Stephen, I think a lot has happened. I was a little disappointed in our non-conference. I thought we could at least got 10 wins, in non-conference. That's kind of how we set it up. But we dropped some games that I didn't think we would have dropped. But, the chemistry, having some good conversations, with some kids, having some good conversations with the starters, just trying to get their chemistry, because I didn't think they were playing well at the beginning of the year in non-conference, and I was really close to breaking that starting group up. I'm glad I kind of stuck with it. But just developing trust. When you got multiple kids out there on the floor who have played in multiple programs, it takes time to trust and for them to, understand your system and get used to playing with each other. And I thought that home stretch when we were home in December really, really helped us because we got to practice a lot. We got to work on things that we needed to get better at. And I do think overall, we are very different. Last year we were more so post-dominant. This year we're kind of, we're kind of even. I think Kiana Rembrandt is starting to play some of the best basketball she's played, in her career. Anjanae is going to give us what she gives us. But I just think overall we have kids that kind of just understand how to make plays. We have more playmakers in the game and on the team. And so it's really making my life a little bit easier on the offensive end of the floor. And obviously, Power Nation, if you know anything about our program, we haven't been that well on the offensive end of the floor. So it's really good to allow and to my point guard, Kennedy, just to run the show and get us into stuff and take some of the pressure off of me.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about Kennedy in a second, but Coach, I thought it said a lot last night about your team that she, obviously didn't have her best game.
Yeah.
She ends up fouling out, and you still find a way to win on the road. Hilliard's on the court running things late as a young player. So, I don't know, to win where she only scores 2 points, that's got to make you feel pretty good as well.
It does. I just think she was a little mentally drained and physically drained. Those last two games versus Tulsa and Temple, she logged some heavy minutes. I mean, she didn't even come out of the game against Temple. And then also credited to UT San Antonio. And they had a really good game plan. Their game plan was to take her away and take the pain away, and they did a really good job of that. And I think she got a little bit frustrated, and that was, there's always opportunities for teaching moments. And I thought last night it's going to be a great film session with her, just about, some of the dumb fouls that she had. I think they were out of frustration, but, we need her on the floor, and she can't do some of the things that she did, but it does, show a lot to our bench and to a freshman, to come in and log 15 minutes and will us to a victory. That kind of shows our depth that we have.
When Kennedy's at her best, obviously as been at multiple stops, but she's thriving with you guys, what has allowed her to be at that best, and what does she bring to your team when she's clicking?
I just think that, me and Kenny, we spend a lot of time together, off the floor. She's a different kid. She's quiet. She's really to herself. She doesn't talk a whole lot. So, sometimes, I think people can read her the wrong way. And so me and her have spent a lot of time together because the point guard is extremely important. And I think that's why you're seeing so much success from us this year, because we do have a veteran point guard. But when she's rolling, I think she's the best point guard in the league. Heck, I think she's one of the best players in the league. And she can do it in so many different ways. She can score for herself. She can create for others. And, she's a really good on-ball defender and is really good on defense. So, I think what we have this year is multiple kids that are two-way players, that wants to play on both sides of the floor. And that definitely fits, what we're trying to do here at ECU.
I remember you telling me, Coach, how excited you were to coach Taylor Barner, who you recruited, I believe, out of high school. She went to Memphis.
Yep.
Got hurt, and now playing here. So as a redshirt freshman, she's put up some big numbers at times. So how would you assess her play through this point in the season?
I think Taylor has played really well. I told her, I said, this year was about building confidence. Obviously she didn't play last year due to, rehabbing from that injury. She missed the latter part of her senior year, so it's been like a year and a half since she's played. I think she's kind of up and down. Obviously that's what freshmen do. They're up and down, and I think obviously with not playing, that doesn't, make it any better. But, she's getting adjusted to conference play. She hadn't, shown the explosiveness offensively, the scoring that she did in non-conference, but she's figuring it out, and the pace and the athleticism. But what she does do is she just draws so much attention. People, they have to guard her, and they have to guard her way beyond the 3-point line. So that just allows the paint to open up and get opportunities for other people. But, what I've talked to her about is not just solely dependent on that three, but getting downhill and getting to the free throw line, finding points any way you can.
Kiana Rembert and Savannah Brooks also playing big roles for you guys coaching. They come in as older transfers, and we talked about it. I know, everybody's got to adapt in this new world of college sports, and you can just see their maturity on the court, though, to me, watching them, and how big have they been to your program and, helping some of the younger players and really acclimating to your style, it seems like.
I think, besides Savannah, there was previous relationships with all of our transfers. Obviously tried to get, Taylor out of high school, recruited her extremely hard for a really long time. Kennedy tried to get her out of high school, tried to get her every time, she got on the portal. So, and she had, she knew my assistant coach, Jason Harris, from high school. And then Kiana Rembert, we tried to get her out of high school, tried to get her, multiple times, when she transferred. So there was a familiarity there with those three. So I think they came in, already understanding, me a little bit, and understanding and knowing what we've had been able to do in the last couple of years. But to have Key, who, has been successful in the league and understands, she got off to a slow start, but she got going when we needed her to. And she understands the league, playing in it. And I think she's playing, we've allowed her to extend her game and shoot threes. And I think she just made herself an even harder person to guard, because now you can't sit down in the paint. You got to guard her, from the 3-point line. So, I just want these guys to go out on a good note. I want these seniors, to experience, some winning. I want them to experience what it feels like to get to the NCAA tournament, and we're just focusing on, one practice at a time, one game at a time. And we just want to continue to get better.
Kim McNeill with us, 14-6 overall, her squad, and 6-1 the league. Something else, Coach, that's taken a big leap. Obviously, the turnovers are down, and then the free throw shooting way up. Obviously, you guys shooting good from three as well. So, did you know when you were recruiting these ladies that they'd be so efficient at the line? Because that's been a big part of the success too. Like last night, maybe the shots weren't falling from the field, but getting to the free throw line, you talked about it, a big reason why y'all won the game. But that's been a huge reason for your success at times as well.
Yeah, well, we wanted, in this recruiting class, we wanted to get kids that were a little bit more efficient on the offensive end of the floor, that could, create for themselves, but also make plays. And we knew going in, this summer, I think almost any interview I did, I said, we were going to be a better 3-point shooting team, and we were going to let it fly, open it up. And, there's been some games where we've been really good, and there's been some games, like last night where we only hit 3, but we didn't take a whole lot. We were 3 for 12. We got it done in other ways, but free throws win games, and that's another thing you got to be able to do on the road. You got to defend, you got to make layups, and you got to make free throws. So we put I don't pressure them, I got to make free throws, We just shoot a lot in practice, and what we do is we shoot a lot after being fatigued. So if we go up and down the floor 4 or 5 times, I'll stop it, and I'll have somebody shoot, make 2 free throws. I think that's a difference between shooting free throws when you're rested, versus when you're fatigued. And we try to make everything in our practice game-like. Everything we're going to do in a game, we do it in practice. And we're getting in there an hour and a half, getting to the meat and potatoes, going hard and getting out of there. So, I think it's some things that we're doing in practice with our free throws, but I also think, a credit to these kids, they're good shooters, so that obviously helps as well.
A few more things with Kim McNeill. We'll get you out of here, Coach. Back-to-back road games this week. So we appreciate your time in between the prep and the travel. But you go out to UTSA, you come back, now you're going back out to UAB for this Saturday. How do you approach that as a coach, making sure their legs are fresh? Obviously, you still got to put a game plan in, try to win these 2 challenging games. But how do you address that? Try to find that balance, so to speak.
Yeah, so we didn't get home till about 2:00 in the morning last night, and obviously these kids are still students, so they got to get up and go to class. We take the day off, but our strength guy KJ does a really good job with, getting some stuff in to kind of get that blood flowing, get that soreness out. So they'll have a block between 2 to 3 where they'll go in there and work with him, just on some recovery methods. And then, we'll get back after it on Friday. The good thing is we've played UAB before, so we know what to expect. And this may sound crazy, but, it's an easy scout because we know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to shoot three, but it's a hard scout because you got to defend the three, So it helps that we've played them before, and we know what we got to do defensively. There's some things that we got to tweak a little bit that they really hurt us on the first time, so we've got to make sure that we can fix that. But, Anjanae Hutton didn't play against them last time. She was out with the ankle injury, so she's back, so that definitely will help us on the offensive end of the floor. But, we're at the point now where either you know it or you don't. There's no reason to stay in there for 2.5 hours. We do the same things. We are who we are. So, we just go in and try to keep ourselves going, trying to, keep, people in a rhythm. Like I said, we're the first day of practice when we have a 2-day prep, we'll go for about an hour and a half. And then the second day of practice, we'll go for like an hour and 15. But right now, we don't do a lot of changing. So we don't need to stay all day. And obviously that's to help our legs as well.
Obviously, Coach, a lot of season left, a ton of games left, more than half the conference slate, but clearly you guys have established yourself at the top of the league right now, and a lot of big games coming up inside Minges Coliseum in the future weeks. So just how important is it for fans to get out there, get behind this team, and how much do you guys feed off the home energy in those cases?
Oh, my gosh, Stephen, I can't emphasize that enough. Like, Pirate Nation being behind us, being at games, being loud, because Minges can get loud. I think it's a unique place to play because, there can be, 1,000 people in there, but when they get loud, it sounds like it's 5, so them being behind us, they were a huge part of our rally coming back against Temple. I thought we had a really good crowd, on Saturday, and so their continued support to come out. My goal is let's see if we can finish this thing out, in these home games with about 1,500 people a night. That would be awesome. Just the purple and gold chants, the ECU chants, they have no idea, how that gets behind us and how that gives us energy. So we need them to come out. We're back at home next week, next Tuesday against Wichita State, so we need them back in the house on Tuesday. I know Tuesdays are tough. I know weekdays are tough, with school and everything, but if we can get as many people out as possible, that would be great.
She is head coach Kim McNeill. Coach, again, congrats on the win last night in San Antonio. Hope you got at least a few hours of sleep, but we appreciate the time so much, and best of luck on Saturday at UAB.
Thank you, Stephen, and go Pirates.
That is Kim McNeill. Her team right now rolling 14-6 overall, 6-1 in the league, heading to UAB this weekend. It'll be a 3 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Birmingham. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll shift gears. Our Bucs on the Pond crew, ECU baseball talk on the way as they'll join us. We'll look ahead to the upcoming season, break things down from their vantage point, and a whole lot more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Welcome back. You got here just in time. This is Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors. It is segment 2 here on HTC on a Wednesday. We just talked ECU women's basketball. The Pirates are 14-6, 6-1. If you missed any of that, check it out. Apple Podcast, Spotify with Kim McNeill, head coach, coming off a big win at UTSA. We're shifting gears now. We're talking Pirate baseball. Man, I haven't seen these guys in a while. Actually, I have seen Wags. I have not seen Scott in person. All right, let's introduce the crew. If you're familiar with ECU baseball coverage, then you know our crew, Bucs on the Pond. We podcast, I think, every Sunday or Monday night. We change it every year, so we still haven't even decided what we're going to do this year. But either way, they're here on this Wednesday. First up, wearing his, I believe, Team USA baseball shirt is Jonathan Wagner. Is that what that is, Wags?
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Welcome back, man. Are you excited for baseball?
Yeah, I can't wait. It's the best time of the year. It felt good going back to Greenville on Monday. And, yeah, I'm in a new setup this year, testing out a new spot in my apartment. So, yeah, I look a little different, but it's the same old Wags, and maybe I'll be a little less negative this year.
You know, the people are talking, and they say that Wags' negativity really gets all the people in the ECU locker room going. So you provide the motivation. So appreciate
I know my
that.
role.
Yep. We got Scott Lohrbatcher. First off, happy belated birthday, Scott. Your birthday happened to coincide with ECU Media Day. So first off, happy birthday. Second off, is that a Hartford Whalers shirt you got going on?
It is. It is indeed a Hartford Whalers sweatshirt that I got for my birthday. So thank you.
There you go. All right. Are you ready for baseball?
Yeah, very much so. It was great to hear from Kim McNeill and winning basketball in Greenville, North Carolina. But from the other side of that, I'm ready to move on to a different men's sport.
That is completely fair. Philip Pilkington, he is producing today. Philip, we know you're ready for baseball, and we'll see how many words you can get in with Wags and Scott. I don't think it's going to be as much, so I'll give you some mic time right now.
No, yeah, I'll let the baseball talents do their thing. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to baseball, and for many reasons, one of which is Wags will drive to see me now, because right now it's hockey season. The only time I see Wags is I have to drive to see him. So that's one of the big reasons. And Wags, you finally get that haircut? Oh, no, you got the haircut the other day, and you were just wearing a hat.
Yeah, I got it. So, the last Canes game I went to.
Yeah, you just got your haircut. Did you get the oil changed in your car yet, Wags?
No. I need to.
Make sure when you go, you buy a scraper. There's gonna be a lot of snow coming up. Last year you didn't have a scraper.
It arrived today. Don't you worry.
Okay, good. Making sure. All right, we can talk baseball now. I just had to give Wags a little crap on it.
Wags is ready for the ice, but not ready for when his car quits working due to the lack of an oil change. All right, guys. Wags, we'll start with you. Just like general storyline that you're most looking forward to going to the season. We'll go around the horn here, specifically with Wags and Scott. But just coming off 35-27, but a good postseason. It was such a weird year to cover. Going into this year, how do you kind of sum it up, Wags, going in?
Yeah, I think the first thing I noticed is pretty much everyone that we talked to at Media Day acknowledged that last year was not good enough. And, yeah, they got hot at the end, but the regular season, Cliff Godwin said, was not up to the standard. And they know that, and they're not going to let it happen again. And I think I like where this team is because there's a lot of competition. And if you're not Austin Irby, Braden Burris, Colby Wallace, or Ethan Norby, you don't have a guaranteed spot really in the lineup, in the rotation, in the bullpen. So it's all up for grabs. And I think coming off a year like last year, having competition pretty much everywhere is so valuable because nobody is complacent. There's not a whole bunch of guys from last year that went through it but then are comfortable going in. It's a lot of guys who went through it last year and now they're battling for their spots. So I think it's valuable. There's a lot of players on this team that are ready to contribute. I think there's probably a too deep position player-wise at every position that you're comfortable starting every day, at least on paper. But, there's still questions. But overall, I think that's the kind of team I think I want coming into a season like this, coming off of last year.
Scott Lorbatcher, how about you? Overall thoughts on the upcoming season? What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I think Wags hit on it a little bit. It's who's going to start, because this team has so much depth, and Cliff talked about it at Media Day, is we got to figure out who the 9 on the field are and who the 3 starters on the weekend are and what the bullpen looks like. And from there, it's just there's a group of sophomores that I think are going to be incredibly important to this team. And it's do those guys from freshmen to sophomore step up in a way that can take this team from 40 wins to 45 wins, which could be the difference in maybe being a host and maybe being a top 8 seed.
So we'll kind of go around just as far as looking in position battles right now. I guess we'll start in the infield and behind the plate. Like catcher-wise, I expect, I was talking about this with Philip yesterday. I think we all kind of expect Walker Barron to be the guy to start with. But Wags, it was pretty evident to me at Media Day that I think they're looking for Walker to be more consistent or take the next step. Sounds like Michael Kalinic has taken a step. You asked specifically about Blade Carver, didn't really get an answer. But there are 3 catchers, and those are the 3 guys. I don't know, what are you kind of anticipating behind the plate this year?
Yeah, I think, first of all, that jumped out to me, kind of that question, because it made it seem like, that's why I didn't include Walker Barron in that last question on guys who are guaranteed their spot. Because I still think if he, comes in now in the fall, in the preseason, not the fall, but in the preseason, and he doesn't perform very well, Kalinic does better, then I think Kalinic would be the guy. Walker Barron's probably going to start on opening day. But I do think it's trending more towards a split this season, and we're going to see a more heavy dose of Kalinic, which, he showed flashes last year, but he was inconsistent. But if he's taken the step that the staff seems to think he has, then, that's nothing but good for this team, because Walker Barron cannot catch every day again this season. I don't care who it is catching. Justin Wilcoxon, Jake Washer, I don't care. You cannot catch every game with the same guy. You need a backup. And, hopefully Blade Carver, at least his bat, can factor into the lineup, because coming in, I think that's kind of what his calling card was, his bat. But he seemed like an afterthought. But I don't know. I think maybe our catcher 3 this season is going to be a Braden Burris, based on what it sounded like. He wants to play every position before he leaves, and, Coach Godwin acknowledged it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that this year either.
I do have one question I want to ask the panel based off that. I don't know if you guys remember this. So, Walker actually caught a little bit his freshman year, which is very unique. I just spitballing here. I think he might have caught more innings his freshman year than innings he didn't catch last year.
Probably.
Which is crazy to say. I don't know. Am I on to something here, Scott? I don't know.
Yeah, he still hit 250 last year catching every day. And when you catch every day, your legs are like the first thing to go, right? You need your legs to hit. So I think giving us a second option in Kalinic or Carver to get him off his feet, especially on the Sunday game or the midweek game, even if it's not even the whole game, gives him the opportunity to really increase his offensive production. And I think we're going to need that, as he's going to be one of the leaders on this team. And you really need his bat probably down towards the bottom half of the lineup to drive in those runs. This is a team that averaged 7 runs a game last year. And I think we're going to need Walker Barron to be at his best to do that again this year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought Walker, he came up with some big hits at times, but he just looked worn down. He's not the biggest guy in the world either. So to handle that workload, you're probably right. I don't know the exact numbers, Philip, but I would think somewhere in that realm. is probably accurate. I hope Blade Carver plays a role because, first off, his name is Blade Carver. Can you have a better name? Probably not. And Kalinic, I will say, I haven't watched him at all this preseason, but in the fall, he changed his batting stance, and his swing just looked a little more fluid. He was when he impacted the baseball, it jumped off his bat in the fall. So I can see, based on the eye tests, why he has taken a jump because he was consistently driving the ball, not just kind of making contact with the ball like he did last year as a freshman. All right. I feel at the corners of the infield, we pretty much know Austin Irby will likely start at first base and Colby Wallace at third. And as Cliff said, Irby can play third. Wallace can maybe play short. But, it seems like that's the most likely thing. So at the middle, that's kind of the question mark. Braden Burris, you would think would start at second, but he can also play in the outfield. You got Carlos Hakame coming in from USF. You've got Matthew Lashley, the JUCO shortstop. You've got a couple other infielders in the mix there. So what are we expecting on the infield? What are you most looking forward to? We'll start with Wags here.
Yeah, I think for me it's a guy that might not start opening day, and Coach Godwin said he's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now. But Braxton Trammell, and he played mostly third, a little bit of left field last year, but he worked out a lot at second base this fall, and it's a new position. I wasn't sure how it would do, but it sounds like from everything we heard that he made the transition pretty well, and that's a guy that if he hits how he did before he got hurt last year, then his bat needs to be in the lineup as often as possible. So how does he go to second? And then Carlos Hakame, how does he do at shortstop? Lashley, I think, is a glove first shortstop, which is fine with me. But it's another thing with depth. I think it's, you might see some of those guys start, and you might see Trammell start at second and Chris in the outfield, and then Hakame at short. But late in the game, if they want Hakame maybe to slide to second, Trammell come out, Lashley come in for a defensive upgrade at shortstop, then I think you could see that. Austin Irby, I think, could slide over to third, which can move Colby to short, or if Colby's pitching, like you said. So there's a lot of versatility. Again, I love that on a team, but it's another one of those things to where it could become an issue because if you're not getting game reps with kind of the same group of guys, it can take you a little bit longer to build that chemistry defensively in the field, and defense is very important. So it's a wait and see, but it's a good problem to have. I think it's just a matter of, I think before too long, you're going to have to find out your guys at each position and what your lineup is going to be and kind of stick to one.
Scott, final thing before we get a break here. I think if there's one thing we as a panel have been, I would say, critical of, or at least, just evaluating the program, we have not seen ECU have an established top-level shortstop for several years, really outside of Zach Agnos, and that was kind of a late-season change. So I don't know. Does this team I guess the proof will be in the pudding once they start playing games, but do you think this team can find that guy?
And it may be that it's more than one guy, like Wags was saying. Yakime did make 10 errors last year at second base for South Florida, so he could be a guy that plays the first 6 innings, and then you have Lashley play the final 3, especially if it's a kind of a low-scoring defensive game. I think when East Carolina's best is when we know who the guy at shortstop is, and that guy is a major contributor. Looking back to Zach Agnos and what he did for that team in, was that 22, where he was probably the most important player on that team. So I do think it's going to be great to have somebody get established in these first 4 or 5 weekends of non-conference play, and I hope by the time we get to conference play, one of those guys has separated themselves as the everyday shortstop.
All right, there's some infield discussion. When we come back, we'll dive into the outfield competition. We also got to get some pitching. We'll try to look into the schedule if we have time as well. We'll be right back after this.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown. At National Finance, we're all about hometown support, just like ECU football. National Finance helps us win on and off the field. They've got your back when you need it most. Fast, easy personal loans for life's big plays. And just like us, they're committed to Eastern North Carolina. National Finance, proud supporters of ECU athletics. Visit nfcmoney.com for loans as fast as today.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app, where you get your podcasts.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm skipping something.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on a Wednesday. We are talking ECU baseball at the moment. We've got our Bucs on the Pond crew. Once we get our plan finalized for the coming season, we'll let you guys know for our weekly podcast. I still got to make sure my Hoist the Colors YouTube account I can log in. I haven't done that in a while. We've got Scott Lorbatcher. We've got Jonathan Wagner, Philip Hilkinen producing as well. We just talked about the infield. Let's shift to the outfield, gentlemen. And I'm pretty sure we'll have Jack Herring in right field on opening day. Switch hitter, had a really strong finish the last year, has emerged as a leader. A lot of, I guess, good questions around that. You've got multiple center fielders competing for the job. Jeff Sabater coming in as a grad transfer from Millersville. Alex Peltier is back as a kind of a toolsy guy who could make a jump as a sophomore. Grady Linehan is really impressed as a freshman. You know, the other corner spot, you could see any of those guys. Jack Vogeli is a JUCO transfer who's cited as having a bunch of power as well. So a lot of outfielders. Burris can go out there. Trammell, we know, can play out there. So we'll start with Scott here. What are you looking forward to in the outfield as far as the Pirates are concerned?
Yeah, just who is it going to be? When I wrote down my list of potential candidates in the outfield, I looked at, you had a post in Hoist the Colors of your starting lineup, and you had people that I didn't even write their name down in the outfield, like Grady Linehan. I think our best case is to get a lot of these guys playing time early. The schedule has a lot of good teams early on, so you're going to see these guys playing against high-level competition. But for me, I think Braxton Trammell has to be in this lineup somewhere, whether that's DH or left field. That's a guy with a 1,000 OPS last year that is an elite-level bat before he got hurt, and I think he's going to be exceedingly important to the success of this team. So I think he has to be out there somewhere. It's just, where do you fit him in amidst all this talent that we have in the outfield?
Definitely a good problem to have. I guess my biggest concern with the outfield is if we know Jack Herring is in right. You know, you got to have a fast center fielder to cover some ground because, like, we all love Jack, but he's not the most fleet of foot guy. And in the other corner spot, if it's Trammell or Vogeli, just based upon that they're both kind of power-hitting outfielders, you better have a darn good center fielder, I think, Wag. So what do you make of that, and does that make who the center fielder is that much more important?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, Cliff mentioned yesterday or Monday that, you know, Jeff Sabater is Lane Hoover but faster, which is pretty impressive with the way Lane Hoover played baseball. So I'm not convinced he's going to be your everyday guy in center field. From what it sounded like to me, it's going to be Alex Peltier to start the year. And it sounds like he's taken a step just like some of the other guys that have come back. So can his bat take the next level against, you know, elite pitching that I think we're going to face early? We'll see. But I am excited about Grady Linehan. I think it sounds like he could be the real deal. And if he's good enough, then start him day one and see what he's made of. But yeah, it also sounded to me like Jack Vogeli is going to be the guy who's in the lineup every day. And it sounded like it would be left field. But again, I keep saying versatility, but like we've mentioned, Trammell can go out there, Burris can go out there. And there's a lot of different configurations of the lineup. And I think the outfield is especially where we're going to see it. You know, Jack Herring's bat is going to be in there, but is Jack Herring's defense going to be in there late in games when you have a guy like Sabater probably coming off the bench? Probably not, I don't think. But again, it's a good problem to have. It's just, you know, with the whole outfield, infield, the whole lineup, I think my biggest question is you have guys, but do you have the guy? You know, Braden Burris is a good leadoff hitter. He's going to hit 400 just about, it feels like. But do you have a masher in the middle of your lineup? I don't know. I think you have to have one for ECU to succeed. And I think Jack Vogeli might be the best shot to have one of those. So I want him in the lineup too. But yeah, it's a good problem to have. There's so many options. It's just a matter of can one or two guys step up and be the guys for you. And that's what we're going to find out.
And, I mean, if you – obviously you could start a game with Herring or Vogeli, Trammell in the corners. You could end the game with Peltier, Linehan, and Sabater out there as your defensive outfield. I don't think much is going to fall between those guys. So it's just fascinating to see how this will play out. And then, of course, you got Davin Whitaker, who has had some big moments in the past as well, who could step in, providing that bat. Jack Strom's a freshman who I saw some good things from in the fall as well. So a lot to sort out there. And we'll see who the DH from all that as well. All right, pitching-wise, I just think I think Cliff has said it at this point almost every year that, like, this is the most depth we've ever had on the mound. But, like, there's always things that happen, injuries, underperformance, inconsistencies. But it does feel like, at least starting-wise, starting pitching candidates, like they brought in a handful of guys who have legitimate starting experience at other places. They bring back guys with legitimate starting experience. So I don't know what the starting rotation will be, Scott, but I do feel at least good about it on paper that they're going to have some quality options and not to where we have 2.5 starters hopefully again by, you know, the second week of the season.
Yeah, I've been pretty adamant on it being Norby, Jenkins, and Towers. I've kind of just felt that way the entire offseason. But and you know, we go through this every year where we talk about, and it is something that I love to talk about, is having a solidified Tuesday guy. And if we truly have this many guys that are capable starters, then I think this is the team in the 12th year of Cliff Godwin that has just a guaranteed Tuesday guy. And maybe that guy changes throughout the year, but I think this is the one. But yeah, and him speaking about Joe Webb as a steroided Danny Bill gets me pretty excited. Although the name Joe Webb, if you went to East Carolina in the late 2000s, the name Joe Webb should terrify you because we all remember him being a mini Pat White at UAB. So that name does give me a little PTSD. So I'm hoping Joe Webb is on our side this time, and he's going to be great for the Pirates.
Joe Webb was the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play at UAB. He was just a freaking stud. And he was a beast in the NFL. I mean,
great Carolina Panther. Just saying.
I forgot he was a Panther.
He was
a
funny?
fan favorite.
Never actually attempted a pass as a Panther in a regular season game. He threw some preseason passes, but for us, man, he was a receiver and a returner, and he was good. Like, we legit would, like, line him up at receiver, like, not just on 5-man sets. Like, he actually got in the game at receiver.
I covered the Panthers when he was there for a while, and, yeah, I think I wrote more Joe Webb articles than many of the players on that team just because, like, the fans loved them so much. Anyways, back to actual ECU baseball players. I don't know, Wags, any early starting rotation predictions? Are you willing to? I mean, Austin Knight said he doesn't even know, so does Wags know?
No, but I'm going to act like I do and give you a prediction anyways. I think Friday is going to be Norby. Saturday is going to be Jenkins. Sunday, I think, is going to be Colby Weber, freshman. I think when Cliff was naming off the guys who were in contention, or maybe it was AK who was mentioning it, and either Cliff or whoever wasn't talking, he made sure to point out that he's in the mix too. Maybe I'm buying into a freshman again for the second year in a row, but Colby Weber, there's a lot of upside there. And then I think your midweek guy is going to end up, before it's all said and done, be Gavin Van Kampen, the West Virginia transfer. So that's my prediction there. But I think I'm interested to see, we mentioned, 8-9 guys who are competing for a rotation spot. And Cliff said that all those guys who don't make the rotation are going to have high leverage spots in the bullpen. But to me, it's the guys who didn't get mentioned. It's, you have Luke Payne, a Tennessee transfer. You have, Charlie Hoagland, a freshman coming in. Nathan Wines, another freshman coming in, all who I think have a lot of upside. So it's some of the guys who we didn't even talk about in media day at all that I think could carve out roles in that bullpen. So it could be the deepest staff we've ever had. But, to me, the key is, Ryan Towers. I think ideally he is filling a rotation spot for you. But I think after last year with him and Antolik, it's just personally, I'm not going to predict them to have an anywhere until I see it. I have to see it before I believe it with those two. I hope they do, because I do think they both can bring some dynamic skill sets to the staff. But I just need to see it with them. But anything they add to me is just an added bonus, because I think even without them, the staff is already deep and plenty of options.
Steven, I have a question for you as it relates to this and moving on to the bullpen side of things. Like, do we even have a conversation about who the high leverage guys are? That's one of the things that has not been hit on at all by anybody. Yeah. Like, that's part of it too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an unknown, but it's less of an unknown to a degree because of who ECU brought in. It's interesting because in the past they've just kind of brought in a group of pitchers who could do both. This year they brought in the starters, like Frank Secone from St. Joe's. He was their Friday night starter. They brought in Van Kempen, who's been a starter at West Virginia. Obviously, Towers and Antolik were candidates last year. But in the bullpen, they brought in two guys who were closers at a lower level in Gavin Marley from Lenore Ryan and Thomas Paxton from Belmont Abbey. So, like, those guys on paper would slot in as back-end bullpen arms. We also talked about the lefty set out last season from
Dawson Neal.
Yeah, Dawson Neal from West Brunswick, who Austin Irby said he couldn't hit his break and stuff because it's so nasty. Wags mentioned Luke Payne. So, I think Weber, if he doesn't start, if you got a right-hander 6'7" who throws 97, I mean, he would look pretty good in the bullpen. So, like, I feel like it's just going to come down to those guys plus whoever doesn't make the rotation. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty good situation. It kind of reminds me of Coastal. I'm not saying ECU's going to make the national championship, but Coastal the previous year had lost a couple pitchers to season-ending injuries. Those guys came back, Jacob Morrison and a couple other guys. I can't remember if Fluky was coming off an injury or not, maybe not. But a couple of their guys that emerged were coming off injuries. They weren't really counting on them. They hit plus more, and so that would be your ideal scenario. But I think even more than anything, ECU just has a ton of options on paper, and hopefully it stays that way. So I think it looks pretty good. It's just now we see how it plays out on the field. Let's get our final break in, guys. When we come back, the schedule is daunting, or are the Pirates undaunted? We'll figure that out. But the early season results could play a big role in what this team finishes as far as potential host or not. We'll get into that. Plus, there was a rumor out there that ECU won't be able to host this year due to construction. I'll confirm that that's BS on the other side. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted
We're live
choice
with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
Welcome back in. Final segment here, final few minutes of the show. Our Bucs on the Pond crew hanging out. Scott Lorbatcher, Jonathan Wagner from On 3 Sports, and Philip Hilkinen producing as well. All right, guys, the schedule is tough. And I just want to clarify up front, there was a rumor going around, too, that if ECU is in a position to host, they wouldn't be able to due to the construction this year. That is absolutely 100% false. ECU can still host a regional and a super regional with the ongoing construction, so that is not true at all. If you hear that, not true. Confirmed that yesterday. All right. Xavier to start off with, UNC, Keith LeClaire Classic, consisting of Rutgers, Troy Western, Coastal Carolina. UPenn is a pretty good baseball program as well. The Ivy League, that's your non-conference series. We know all the tough midweeks. This schedule is challenging, guys. So, like, really, Scott, they can't afford to kind of just kick the tires at the beginning of the season. They got to kind of know what a plan is kind of going into this thing, right?
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, we don't have a layup on the first weekend. Xavier was a first four out type team last year, top 40 RPI. Predicted to be third in the Big East again this year, and they have 3 all Big East players. Big East is a solid baseball league, about like the American. So, you face the official University of Cincinnati Reds weekend 1. So I would expect this to be a highly contested series, and then obviously North Carolina and Coastal the next 2 weekends, or 2 of the next 3 weekends. Those are really good baseball programs that were hosts last year. So you come out, you win 2 of those 3 series, or all 3, and you're well into the top 25, looking at being a host or even a top 8 seed if you can be successful. And if you're not, then your bubble shrinks, unfortunately.
On the road this year, ECU has a challenging conference slate as well. They got to go to Tulane, they got to go to UTSA, they have to go to Memphis and go to FAU. So what do you think of the overall schedule as well, Wags?
Yeah, I love it. It's competition. And when you have a team that's competing as much as this is, just within, I think it's a good thing to don't have any gimmies out there. You're going to have to show up every single day and not only earn your spots in the lineup, but earn your spot in a tournament, whether that's the conference tournament, whether that's the NCAA tournament. And, obviously I think we all expect better than last year, and we think they're going to be back in that, hosting picture at the very least, but nothing is a given. I think we learned that last year. So being tested right away, some really good teams, Coastal will be fun. But yeah, it's a good thing. Facing good teams is good, and hopefully the conference is good again, like it was, or better like it was last year. So it's not as much back against the wall, since you hopefully build yourself some cushion with the early schedule.
All right, we are up against it as far as time, but Chuck wants us to predict. Do we think ECU will be top 16 in hosts? So quickly, Scott, do you think the Pirates host this year?
They host not only the regional, but the super regional.
Wags?
Top 10 seed.
Philip?
I'm going to go in the 9 to 12 range.
I got them as the number 13 seed, so we're all having the Pirates host. No expectations, but hey, that's Pirate baseball. Hey, don't listen to the rap poison. We are out of time. Scott, appreciate you. Wags, appreciate you. Philip, appreciate you. And we'll do this again. We'll have an official predictions podcast. We'll let you guys know when our schedule is set for the Bucs on the Pond official night podcast for the crew on the Hoist the Colors YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Great show. Appreciate Kim McNeill as well. She was awesome. Good luck to them this weekend at UAB. We'll be back Thursday, 12 noon with softball coach Shane Winkler. We'll see you then.